Hey, if you're watching this video, it means you have some interest in this upcoming retreat on inner stillness. This is a topic that has very much been alive for me in recent months and especially the last couple of weeks. And I try to run retreats on topics that I'm really feeling in my own body. They allow me to transmit the message of that topic in a deeper way, in a truer way, and from a place of aliveness rather than cognition. And one of the things that has sparked me dropping more into stillness has just been this seeing in culture, but especially within a lot of my students and people on social media, a resistance to this place of stillness, a resistance to slowing down, a resistance to being with one's thoughts, a resistance to emotions and pain, and the opposite of that being, a very busy, anxious, doing energy that people have become accustomed to and are more and more drawn to. And it's always interesting to me when I see someone in a pattern of doing or busyness or a period in their life where that, for some reason, seems to be getting amplified, and not in an aligned way, but in almost like an anxious way. Like I'm doing, I'm distracting myself, I'm busy, or maybe under the guise of like trying to achieve something. There's usually some underlying resistance going on when that begins to happen. That form of busyness, of going, of, we could just say, like noise and agitation in the mind and the body, is some form of not being willing to or having the capacity to drop in to a more slow, still, embodied place within us. And usually that's because there's something in our experience we don't want to feel, whether that's an older trauma or something in our life that is out of alignment that only really seems to come to the surface in a louder way when we slow down enough to hear it. And so what ends up happening is we get involved in all of these compensatory coping mechanisms that keep us hovering above the shadowy darkness of our being. It's not always that bad, because this can really just show up in very like trivial ways as well. We just feel a little bored with life. And it's uncomfortable to just relax into the boredom and connect to a place of stillness within us, or slow down enough to actually meet the boredom with life. And so instead we just like accumulate more, or we consume more caffeine, stimulants, or alcohol as a way to just make us feel a little bit more full, a little bit more energized, a little less existential despair. So when I say that there's usually something beneath the surface that we're resisting, it doesn't always have to be this big thing. It often is something like small that's uncomfortable. And the thing about stillness is that what it really invites for us is an opening to our life as it actually is. You could even say it, for that reason, it's like a true moment of presence where we let down our guard and we receive and soften into what is here right now. And because a lot of us are holding a lot, navigating a lot, we're just trying to get through the next day, it often, we don't always make the space to slow down enough to feel what's actually here. But the subtle discomfort that we might associate with having to feel what's beneath the surface just feels like too much. And so we just keep going, keep a cap on that place within us and stay in the buzzing mind. But this has so many implications. And unfortunately, they're often negative implications. Negative in the sense that they take us down paths and perpetuate certain patterns that don't actually fulfill us, and often are destructive to our relationships, our work, and our general well-being, which is why I'll often say show me the ways you avoid stillness, and I'll show you the patterns that run your life. when we're not actually able to be with a moment as it is. And what do I mean by be with a moment? If you're not able to like be in your life, be present to anger if it's there, sadness if it's there, pain in the body if it's there, confusion about what to do next in your life, an agitated mind, thoughts. If you're not actually able to stay grounded and present and still with that, then it is going to push you unconsciously and reactively into some sort of action. And those actions, when repeated, turn into patterns, and patterns over time will run your life. And some patterns are good, right? We have lots of patterns that serve us. But when they're not done intentionally, or when they're done because we're running from something internally, that's when they end up being destructive. And we find ourselves in loops over and over and over and over again, where we say we want something and we start to make progress toward it, but it touches some pain place in us, or some confusion, or some fear, and then we react to it and we turn away. So there's endless examples of how the avoidance of stillness creates these patterns, but maybe you can even sense into it for yourself as you're listening right now. The ways in your life that you avoid slowing down, that you have fear around slowing down. And maybe there's even just a sense of like, if I did slow down, what is it that I would have to feel? What is it that I would have to confront? What would I have to face? And I'm not a teacher who is in the camp of you have to open up the floodgates and feel everything in your experience in order to heal and be awake. Many times that just ends up being more traumatizing. So there's a lot of wisdom and necessity in putting up boundaries around things that we're not yet willing to feel or able to feel, or is like too much, too soon, too fast. But that can all be done within the container of slowing down and being still. Because that place of stillness, when we drop into it and we feel a rootedness, we feel that, oh, I'm not the experience that's happening. I'm this grounded, calm awareness that is holding it. When we anchor into that place, then we can communicate with the reality of our life, or the truth of what's here. And maybe what comes up in that is like, oh yeah, well, when I do get more still, I do have a sense that something's off in my work right now, my job, but that just feels like way too big of a thing to go into right now. So it's not the right time. And so great, like you meet that and you honor that. And now you're at least being honest with yourself. And you go, well, we'll address that when the time comes. But from that place of meeting, oh, there's something off with my work, but I don't want to go into it yet, you can now be more intentional about what you do want to do next. Rather than, this pain coming up at the end of the day because you're exhausted by your job and you hate the idea of showing up the next day to do it again. And it shows up as this anger that then comes out on your kids or your partner. And you're just like hovering above the truth of the actual thing. And when you hover above it, you just act in all of these ways that don't make sense, or they don't seem to make sense. It's just like, why am I like this? Why am I angry? Why am I reactive? Well, there's something deeper that's going on that you haven't actually made contact with. And the beauty about the space of stillness within us, even though it's a bit of a vulnerable journey to get to that place, because the vulnerability is that it's asking you, or putting down the doormat for you to feel something you haven't felt, or things you've avoided. The beauty of that space is that it's actually quite safe. It's actually the safest place you can dwell in, because stillness is pointing to this vast awareness and rootedness and groundedness that is innate to your being. And that place within you, which is, non-woo, this is just like studied by millions of people who have done any sort of contemplative practice, and you as your own human being have probably touched into that space within you that's able to be deeply present, even with a lot of things moving through your experience. That place within you can hold your life. It can hold the truth of your life. It can hold the confusion, the paradox, the uncertainty, all of it without reaction. It can just go, "Whoo, yeah, this is what's true right now." But from that place, you can now interact with your life with intentionality rather than unconscious reactivity, which is where the avoidance of stillness just creates a lot of trouble for us. So I recently did a masterclass on this topic. It was my most popular masterclass to date, which was interesting to me. I didn't know how much it would resonate with people. So I am using this as an opportunity to do a more immersive experience into that topic. If you do sign up for this retreat, you'll also get that masterclass for free, so you can have both if you're choosing between one or the other. And my retreats are an opportunity for us to go into a topic in a much more practice-rich way. I do a lot of teaching on these retreats. There's a lot of talking, but there's a lot more space for dropping in, for taking the learnings and implementing them into your own embodied awareness, which is where the actual change happens. And that's why I continue to do these retreats, because they give people that opportunity. And I love them. I love immersive experiences where we can go deep in a short period of time. And what's also cool about doing these virtually is that I record them all. All the recordings are uploaded within 30 minutes of each session ending. So if you're not available this whole weekend to do this retreat, maybe you're just available for parts, you can tune in live where you're able and then watch the recording, or you might not be available at all. And for that, you can just watch the recordings at a time that works for you, which more than 50% of people actually do. It's only a smaller percentage that do attend live. So it's not like you'd be missing out unless you really, really want to attend just live. So you'll have lifelong access to those recordings. You can read more about what's included on the resource page down below. Including all the different bonus resources, because I do want to make sure you're supported after the retreat. So there's a lot of resources that are given to you, including like specific meditations to help you reconnect to this place of stillness within you, and a lot more sleep meditations, my deep sleep course, anxiety meditations. So check it out below. And you could also see some of the testimonials of people who have taken these retreats with me in the past. So I just say if this topic resonates with you, if as I'm talking there's something about it that it's like the topic is pulling you in, I've learned to really trust that when it's alive in me. I've done that on my whole education and learning journey, and when I don't feel a resonance, then I don't go toward it. So it might not be the time for you if you're not feeling that. But if you are, I'd love to have you there. Just keep in mind with these retreats, the registration is open up through the retreat, but after that, it's not available for purchase afterwards. So if you are interested in just getting the recordings, just make sure you do sign up beforehand. All right, that's all. Thank you so much. Hope to work with you. Lots of love and take care.